opponent's weaknesses are, and we're going to be getting into our next match right now. Oh, wow, I'm not going to try. This is too much. This is
Alvizor, I think, is a good way. It sounds like a Pokemon, right?
And then Ashikabi. Okay, got it. I think we're good. I think we got it. But definitely some colorful names, along with some colorful characters that are going to be joining us here at Dreamhack Austin. I think that, in particular, Sheik has been a point that's very interesting in the meta. We've seen the character, in particular, really evolve. And we've seen a lot of different takes on how you're supposed to play Sheik. Or rather, what are some of the more optimal ways to play Sheik? I think that I look at somebody like Void, and I get really excited. You see all the combos, you see the neat finesse, the technicality, the raw moments of like, wow, did you squeaked out that much damage? Nuts. And then, I mean, you see guys like Karna from DFW. Incredibly methodical, smart, very neutral heavy, and making smart decisions. But that aren't the most graceful, but they always work really well.
I think that when you look at Sheik versus Rosalina, I look at the big empirical data, right? You look at somebody like Mr. R, for instance, who, when he squares off against Dabuz, these days doesn't even pull out the Sheik. I mean, he seems more inclined and has more success with characters like Cloud. And here, instead, Alvizor is going to be busting out the Pac-Man. So a bit of an interesting matchup. It reminds me a little bit of Apex back in 2015, whenever it was Abadongo versus Dabuz, way back in the day. And I think the one talking point here is just the time and the space that both of these characters kind of need to operate and set up their tools. Here, the other half of that side is, even when Pac-Man sets up the things like the hydrant and the key, with the gravitational pull, Rosalina is able to shut down a lot of the offensive projectile-oriented options that Pac-Man's going to come through with.
Yes. I think there's also one aspect of this matchup that, oh wow, is actually pummeling Akabishi in the face, is that hydrant. I think hydrant is a really fun and interesting mechanic, but you don't see it utilized a lot cleverly. It's kind of also really specific in the ways that you can use it. What? So it looked like there was a very little recovery off of that dash attack and then immediately going into the F smash. These are the moments that we're talking about where you're getting rid of Luma and dismantling your foe before you start actually laying down the hurt.
So, stock coming through in favor of Alvizor. A bit interesting. I think that the one thing to consider is we haven't seen Ashikabi really find any moments of offense as a whole. It feels like he's the one who's constantly being put at a disadvantageous state. He's always forced to play defense, and he hasn't really had a chance to fight back and find some retorts of his own yet.
Yeah, it also seems like there's been a lot of focus on just removing the hydrant, remove the hydrant, and then you get hit as a result. Maybe just let the hydrant exist, and also figure out ways that you can move around in that space. Maybe adapt and move around that sort of stage hazard.
And this is kind of what we expect from this matchup as well, is just a lot of patience between both players, trying to figure out ways and when to strike. Wow, I cannot believe that Alvizor was able to make it back from that.
That was really close. Very clutch. I mean, that took one of those instant reaction moments of like, oh, this is probably going to go poorly. Let me bail.
Ashikabi, I mean, he's got the percentage right. It's just a matter of lining up the shot. That's a perfect way to do it. Not allowing Alvizor to land, finding the up smash, and taking the stock.
It's all about being smart about those anti-airs in particular. When you have a character that adds something that's quick, reactable, you want to make sure you abuse that as much as possible. But to counterplay around it, you had Alvizor with half a stage to see if he could just move away from Akabishi and not even interact at all. Then find your footing, start approaching again, open them up.
I think you have to be really aware, of course, of the pocketed projectile. That key is the go-to whenever you consider most Pac-Man players, just because of the knockback that it has. It's a really, really strong KO option, in particular around these kinds of percents. So just be on the lookout for that.
This is where things get difficult also, is dealing with some of the upward hitboxes that come with Rosa, in particular because you have to deal with so much damage. What a slash. Are you kidding me? He threw everything but the kitchen sink.
These are the moments where I look at Pac-Man and I'm like, Pac-Man seems like fun. I want to play Pac-Man. And then you actually play Pac-Man, you're like,
I
okay,
hate this.
Never mind. We're going to do literally anything else right now. But of course, that's just kind of the burden that comes with kind of playing the character. You have to do so much to essentially keep yourself afloat amidst all these various characters. And to see folks still so dedicated to the craft that is Pac-Man is so wonderful.
It's especially going back to that idea that I've been pushing this entire time, that go out and play whatever character you want in this game. There's so many opportunities to go out and explore and learn. And with the internet as a catalyst, you can spread information so fast and really start to build a community around people that have that same mindset. I want to be a Pac-Man player. Go figure it out. Try new things. It seems like the hydrant has been such a central point of the match, whether it's Akibishi constantly like absorbing it, trying to remove it out of play, or Alvizor really just F-smashing and just throwing it around, using his weight.
Yeah, it's a really interesting particular tool, primarily because it affects both players in a similar route, right? Like the water that comes out pushes both of them. Both players can interact and actually smash and send it towards their opponent. So it makes it, I guess, like a bit tricky, honestly, to figure out the proper way to navigate around it. I mean, here, Luma.
Oh, man. Ashikabi now losing a bit of stage control as a result. I mean, Alvizor can just really chill out and hold center stage. He has the stock advantage. He has a lot going on for him. He also has the key ready to go. But the fact that you can also have Ashikabi absorb everything, it kind of leads to the fact of, like, maybe I shouldn't be as much of a projectile heavy. Maybe I should think about the normals instead of worrying about zoning so much. This interaction in particular is you just get out. Go to the sides. Don't try to interact with the up air that's coming from Rosalina.
I think that's a talking point, too, is where we've been seeing Ashikabi have the majority of his losses actually isn't necessarily with the projectiles in general. It's the close quarters game. So he needs to find ways to adapt around just, I guess, the style that Alvizor is playing. But, of course, Pac-Man being such a niche character, you don't necessarily have the matchup experience as a whole.
Good shield. Where's the follow-up here? Tries to cover low with the strawberry, but not catching the high hits that we need. That is not going to do it. That is pretty close, though.
Apple a Day nearly kept the stock away, but instead it actually sets up for an opportunity. Ashikabi able to get the up smash and take the stock out, but of course we got to talk about percents. It's a really large deficit to climb, and the fact that Alvizor has been shutting down the Luma play for the most part from the side of Ashikabi is going to make this deficit even more difficult to climb out of.
Follows up here. Oh, Ashikabi just trying to zone out, but Alvizor using the fire hydrant as a projectile, trying to see if he can get in. Contesting back and forth. They're not wanting that massive knockback in the field. Up throw, not going to be able to take it. Trying to take advantage of the light hitboxes here. Sorry, the light weight that comes with the character. That forward air is going to be able to do it and seal that stock.
Yeah, good aerial there, closing things out, and yeah, just a really, really unique matchup. It's not, again, something that we see too much.